Okay, Shabbat Shalom to you, Rabbi Kefa, on this wonderful Sabbath. Everybody can hear me clearly. Great, wonderful. Now, our Parshas today is Parshas, let me open up the Hidden Truths of Ray Scrolls. It's Parshas 27th as Riyah, which is to do with uncleanness. Before I go there, I wanted to give a little thing about things going in the world. As you know, there's elections happening in France, and some of you may not know, but I mean, we don't have my student in the room yet. He's from France. But France is a very important country. Some of you may not be aware of that. I mean, we got Le Pen, who's a National Front candidate, fighting over there. She wants to basically tear away everything that's built, NATO, United Nations, and all of that. She wants to tear apart all of those institutions and start fresh. We have Macron. We have a few other candidates. But why is France so important? And that's a question that we should ask, because people don't normally ask that kind of question. And the reason why it's important is modern democracy that we understand today actually started from the French, in the French Revolution in 1789, May the 5th. So that set the stage for modern democracy as we see it today in all the different countries. That followed by the freedom of many countries in Africa and other nations that set up democracies coming out of colonial rule and law. Because several countries such as Britain, the United Kingdom, they owned several countries in Africa. And I don't know if you heard or not, but I actually found this kind of novel, and I found that the colonial thinking has not gone away from these nations still, because the United Kingdom proposed that all the people that come into the country that are illegal, they were set up some kind of friendship, call it a money exchange with Rwanda in Africa. And what they will do is Rwanda will take all these people in. So they used to hold them at Calais. They used to hold them in France side. There's all sorts of problems. People try to cross the channel, and some drowned and others made it to the shore. It's like a 26 mile channel, like a river, call it a river, 26 miles long, or a small sea. And so they set up this collaboration with Rwanda. Rwanda, is a poor country in Africa. It's a dirtbag country, basically. And these guys have set up shop over there. They obviously handed them money. Africans are always hungry for money. Whatever you send, they just thank you very much. They never fulfill. You can never fill them up with any amount of money. So they offered them some pounds, United Kingdom pounds, and they said, yes, we'll take the migrants, we'll take the illegals in, we'll house them, they will probably help them, feed them, and then afterwards when their cases will process in Rwanda. And when they get released and they said, okay, you can stay for 5 years, but then you have to go back home, guess where they will stay? Think about it. They will stay in Rwanda. They will never touch the United Kingdom. And they call that a first. And that really, an Indian minister in England today, and there's an Indian chancellor, by the way. Things have changed a lot in the United Kingdom. I mean, that would never happen 100 years ago. But you got Indians now running the show over there. And what they're trying to do now is keep the people out, basically, of the country. They don't want the foreigners to come into the land. So they're going to keep these people in Rwanda. Now you ask yourself, let's apply the same principle in the United States. United States has an influx of immigrants, illegals coming from Mexico border, and maybe some other countries down south, in what we term Latin America. So imagine, right, if you had all these people put into planes and sent to Rwanda. Just as a aside, if you started sending all these illegals to Rwanda, how many illegals do you think would want to come to the United States if they found out that the only country they could touch down on was Rwanda, and they'd have to stay in Rwanda, find jobs in Rwanda, and then return back home from Rwanda? I personally think that not many would actually want to come over. But again, whether the United States does similarly is yet to, we're yet to find out. Rabbi Kefa saying we should send them to Haiti. so really, the United Kingdom's taken this step, and from what we see, because some of these people tried to cross the channel and they ended up killing themselves, and the others who made it probably hiding until they got caught and then sent back. So in a way, it might be seen as a safety thing, but I personally think that it's a colonial thing, and Britain's decided that the people in the UK don't want to have illegal immigrants come into the country because it poses them a problem. And it poses them a problem from a number of angles, because these people come in, and some of them might have criminal backgrounds, and others may not. So it introduces a criminal element in the society. Secondly, the immigrants that are legal, they might come in and because they haven't got jobs, because they're not allowed to work under the rules of the country, they might start to steal things, and commit crimes to survive. That's another issue that they have to work with. And so I guess it increases crimes. It also makes the present population live in uncertainty, and so on. So it's one of those things. It's it's an interesting choice, I'll say that. But I was thinking that the US is a very big country, and it could take a similar approach, because the United States took people to the Caribbean islands at one point, and what is termed the slave trade today, or the ancient past, and they took their slaves and they inhabited places like what's today called Jamaica, Kingston, and other Caribbean nations. And a lot of those people were ferried out there, probably by the British, who were then, owners of America, until America became a freed nation after the battles they had with the British forces, and they ousted the British forces, and they became a free nation. So kind of interesting on those sidelines what's going on. But that's where we are, and we got a war raging on in Ukraine. We got the dollar, we got the gas, or what they call the petrol over here. Average is running at $4.20. Now this country has never had petrol prices at that price. The highest I've seen when I was in Florida, they hit $2 and maybe around 39 cents. That's the highest I've seen before. But this is obviously gone almost double. And this war, by the way, if you don't know, we are actually fighting a proxy war. America is fighting a proxy war with Russia, testing out his weapons, testing out his ammunition, missiles, other things, because they are supplying these to Ukraine, and Ukraine is firing them left, right, and center. But one thing has appeared to be so, that some of American weapons are pretty decent, like the J-1 missiles. The J-1 anti-tank missile is proven to be very deadly for Russian forces, because it can destroy a tank very quickly. If targeted a tank or or an armored personal carrier, can destroy it in one strike. Whereas if Russians send their helicopters, gunships, they send them and fire missiles at tanks, they maybe have to fire two missiles to destroy a similar tank. So Russian forces are at this point extremely irritated with these, supplies of weapons coming in from what is termed NATO nations, and Russia has actually formally put in a protest. But Russia is also saying that we will destroy all these weapons that the West sends, and the West is just trying to make a grab and trying to make money out of this whole scheme called war. So anyhow, that's the West. That's the things happening in the Eastern Front. But our Parsha today, but before I get into the Parsha, I wanted to get into something else, uncleanness and things such. It was very interesting that a student wrote into me, Kefa saying that, Rabbi Kefa saying the French helped the Union in the American Civil War defeat the southern states. Note this history never taught in the schools. The Russian Navy helped unions as well. Yes, Rabbi Kefa, the French Revolution, as we rightly understand it, history, was a very important start for many, many nations, including America. And the French stand as a glaring, beacon. Let's call it a beacon. So they stand as a glaring beacon for many nations because they're very progressive in their approach. And they set up all these, we must have a parliament, we must have a Senate House and all this. And so that's what the democracy is today. Although democracy started from the Greeks, but the present model that we understand today started from the French. So French are key. And the French are good people. They're not bad people. The French people are very good. I've been to France a number of times. And, a lot of people look up to this French Revolution. And this Macron is very favorite in France right now, and Macron is leading, I think, 54%. It's likely that he will become the next president, stroke prime minister. So there's a president and there's a prime minister. If he becomes the president, he'll probably set up somebody as a prime minister, and so things will continue. But having said that, See, people, one thing I will say is, let me just please, give me a second. Somebody's asking me a question about the room, and I think it's a little late for them to ask me. And so the thing is this, that a student basically asked me a question. He said to me about, desecration of the scrolls. Is it the same thing as a Christian Bible? And you'll be surprised to learn the answer. The answer is this, that if you desecrate a Torah scroll, and desecration comes in different forms, by the way. Some of you may have accidentally done that as well. If you drop a Torah scroll on the ground, if you deliberately burn it, if you tear a page out deliberately, you have desecrated a Torah scroll or a Tanakh scroll. It is not the same thing as holding a Christian Bible in your hands. A Christian Bible does not hold the same value. Learn this very carefully today, because you'll probably never hear this from anybody other than myself, possibly Rabbi Kefa. We do have a Torah scroll, by the way. Rabbi Kefa is holding on to it very nicely and tightly. It is placed in his home. But we have a big Torah scroll. So desecration of a scroll, if you do that by accident, you will have to do fasting for 40 days. How many of you knew that? That if you desecrate a Torah scroll, you have to fast for 40 days. Anybody? Anybody ever heard this? You think it's a Catholic fast. But actually it's a Jewish fast, for your information. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. That was a question that was thrown at me by a student, and I told him that you have to do a Jewish fast if you dropped a Torah scroll, but if you dropped a Bible from your Christian church, no, you have to do no fast. And look at the stark difference, how we treat the Torah and how we value the Torah in our lives. Whereas I have students, unfortunately, I won't be calling them students much longer. I don't even want to call them students, but ex-students. I have ex-students who actually did not value the Torah laws. Not that they desecrated the scrolls, but there's another way to desecrate Torah, and that's by not obeying the laws in the Torah. That's also desecration. And when that continues to happen, we have to take very swift action. I've been very mild, pliable, I've been very quiet, and I haven't done anything serious towards those that have desecrated our laws. And so when that happens, I've been like, okay, give people a chance. That kind of theory. Give people a chance, give them a second chance, and let's wait and see approach. Very, very patiently waiting. But people haven't changed. People haven't stopped desecrating the laws. So it came a point that I said, okay, it's now time to take the gloves off the hands and start, putting the foot down. And so that's the point I've come to, where I said no more of this desecration of the laws of the Elohim of Israel, because you've done enough desecration. We will not allow this any further, and those that desecrate will be out. So I wanted to just give you a little brief summary on that, on the desecration of our laws, and it arose long time ago, and a lot of rabbis in the medieval times, or in 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, they discussed the desecration of the Torah scrolls, and they discussed the Gemara, said that is the desecration of the scrolls same as the Gemara? And in books like the Moed Katan 26a in the Gemara, it says that the rule was that if a Torah scroll was burned deliberately, then certain rabbis, they mentioned that one must tear their cloth. Kariya means that you have to be in some kind of mourning. Rabbi Rahman was one of the ones who mentioned this, and Rabbi Ephraim also mentioned this, because they mentioned that the Nazis they slaughtered dogs and cats in the Jewish shuls, in the little temples, in the synagogues, and then they forced the Jews to tear apart a Sifre Torah, a Torah scroll, and cover those rotting carcasses. And then there was a rabbi by the name of Oshri. He then ruled at that time that you should tear your cloth and for mourning, but there was no need to fast, because people were already malnourished in the ghettos. The Jewish people were very malnourished, had ill health already. So he said if they fast further, they may end up killing themselves or dying from malnourishment. So there were certain prohibitions made. But if a Torah scroll was torn, and it was taught that rabbinic authorities, they said that should you do kriya or not? Rabbinic authorities were uncertain, but certain. What they said, what about Gemara texts? Books that the Jews read in the synagogues. But they said that the Gemara text is not considered in the same level as a Torah scroll. So their Aruch HaShulchan, what's called the Siddur. We have our own Siddur, they have a Siddur as well. And so the Siddur basically turned around and said that if a Torah scroll is burnt deliberately or deliberately torn, you must fast for 40 days. It imposes a fast upon you. Otherwise, there's a sin committed, a huge big sin. It's considered a degrading of the law. So even so, Rabbi Kefa, you might be interested to know that if a tefillin falls on the floor, even if a tefillin that a person makes falls on the floor, because it's a Torah commandment to wear tefillin, then it was taught that you have to fast, because you deliberately, maybe not deliberately, but sometimes you might accidentally drop it. Even an accidental drop of tefillin requires some kind of kriya, means that you have to put that little, the way kriya is done was that you put a little piece of cloth and you attach it to the left-hand side of your T-shirt, because they used to tear their T-shirt, and rather than ruin your good T-shirt, some people would just, some people could put a little piece of cloth with a pin and attach it to their T-shirt to the left. It means the same thing. It means a kriya. You're doing a penance or a mourning. But for the fallen Torah, that was for, if you, for instance, by accident dropped a tefillin, sure, you could do that, but not for a tefillin that they didn't recommend a fast. Some said yes, some said no, to fasting for a tefillin, dropping of a tefillin. There was a Rabbi, Rabbi Israel of Bruna. He actually recommended a fast if you dropped a tefillin, because if it was a sign from heaven that one should repent, and fasting is a means of repentance. And so there was one rabbi such as Israel. The other rabbi was Rabbi Shemuel ben Moshe of Greece in the 1500 CE. Then we have some other authorities. Magen Abraham, 1637 in Poland. Rabbi Moshe ibn Habib, who came from 1654 in Jerusalem. And so these are the authorities that noted that this custom applies to a Torah scroll, and as well as to a tefillin. The people should fast, but they said, what about the people who witnessed it? What about if a person witnessed a tefillin falling on the floor, or a Torah scroll being burnt or torn? And then they said the ones witnessing it and don't need to fast, but the ones whose hands the object was, they must fast. So think about it, if our laws are so stringent in a Torah of how a Torah is seen, how a Torah is perceived, then think, how is it perceived that when you don't obey the laws? Just think about it for a minute. When you don't obey the laws, it's seen much, much more aggressively, in the sense that it's seen as a desecration of God's holy law. When people don't keep the law, it's seen much more differently. It's seen even more worse than dropping a Torah scroll or burning it. I was in the East not too long ago, and I was instructing the wife, and I told her that because there's a custom over there that if you see a text, a holy text, that you burn it. And she was about to burn a holy text that she found in a newspaper or somewhere, and I advised her against that. I said, never ever do that again. Never burn a holy text. I said, you must. She said, what should I do with it? I said, you bury it. You never burn it. Don't ever do that. If the common custom is to burn it, they don't know what they're doing. They're ill-advised. They got ill teachers. They don't know what the heck they are doing, and they're only bringing sin, and they're bringing judgment upon themselves. So you never do that. So I at least instructed my household, how it should be handled. So it's very important to understand these matters, because if you ignorantly do these things, as some of you have been, then you will reap the punishment from above without even knowing about it. Then you'll be wondering why my roof is broken, and why do I have to pay, why is my car not working, and why is certain things happening to me that I can't control. The reason is that you'll get natural judgment. Natural judgment will come upon you without even you knowing about it. And then you'll be wondering, what did I do wrong? And you probably be clueless that you did that. So this is why it is always very important to have a knowledgeable person, somebody like myself, Rabbi Kefa, if he knows, somebody knowledgeable like a Kohen in the gate. A Kohen can advise you on these matters, but others cannot advise you. Others will just be listeners and seers. They will not be advisors as such. Now, coming back to the Parshas that we're talking today, which is Tazria, and it says in Yud-Heh-Vah in chapter 12 of the book of Leviticus, verse 1. Now, before I read this, I would suggest that those of you who want to, be in the room in the future, please mark the room or follow the room, because you lose it then please don't come to me in the middle of the teaching and ask me, well, what shall I do? Don't pal talk me because don't send me WhatsApp messages because it's distracting, and I am sorry that I'm going to have to remove you from my WhatsApp. I'm going to have to do that because this is not good to do that. So coming back to the again to the Parsha, the Tazuriya, it says, and Yudhewahe spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, if a woman has conceived and given birth to a child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. And then it says, according to the days of the separation, for her infirmity shall she be unclean. In modern terms, I'm not going to tell you what that means because this is public forum, and as you know that we do not at this point teach Gentiles and other people what our Torah means and what it doesn't mean. But I'll just read the text for you to go analyze it and learn for yourself. But I will only, I only send direct messages now to my people, my folks, who are supporters and benefactors of our covenants. Rest to me, Joe public, not interested in you. And it says, and she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no holy thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying are fulfilled. But if she bears a female child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in a separation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering to the door of the tent of the appointed times to the Kohen, to the priest. Now, a lot of you will say that are out there who today consider yourselves in Torah, if your wife had a child, a baby, a girl maybe, or maybe a boy, you will ask about these, and of course I will direct you as what exactly that means. It happened to one student of mine not too long ago, and I directed him when his wife gave birth to a son, but he did go through the rest of the process. The rest of the process involves, in the purifying process, you have to bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove. So that means that equivalent value of a lamb today in 2022. Well, when my student's son was born, this was slightly a few years ago, perhaps 2 to 3 years ago. When it happened, he didn't have to. Of course, inflation today is running amok at 8.5% in the United States of America, and United States of America is not an island by itself. There are countries like Israel, and if inflation is here, then inflation is in Israel as well. So lamb prices, by the way, have moved on. There was a time, Rabbi Kefa, if you remember, that we used to say $200 for a lamb. Well, those days are long gone. Long gone. Oh yeah, absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. I instructed you about your son Nakshon. How old is Nakshon now? Is he 2 or more than 2 years old? I think he must be over 2 now. Because that was, $200, right? But lamb prices, by the way, is 2.5. Baruch Hashem. So today, lamb prices have moved on. Today, we're talking about $500. Anywhere between $400 to $500 for a lamb price. And people cringe. Oh, so much money. But I don't set the prices. And your price has to be of the lamb for what the Jerusalem price of lamb is. Not Texas price, not Florida price, and not even New York. But even in Texas and New York, Rabbi Kefa, if you went to your local butchers, for argument's sake, what would be the lamb price today in Texas? If you said, give me the whole lamb, I'll take the whole thing. Any ideas on that? So, lamb prices have moved on. I can tell you that today, the price in the East, and I can tell you the price in Jerusalem is no longer $200. It's trending between $400 to $500 a piece. So that will be the price for a lamb equivalence. And for a turtle dove, a young turtle dove can set you back $200 now. It's the price of a lamb. Some of them can even fetch up to $500, but I don't push the higher prices. I push the minimum, and the minimum I would go for today would be $400 for a lamb and $200 for a turtle dove. That's $600 you'd have to bring into the Kohen in the gate when your wife gives birth to actually fulfill the laws of the Torah. Think about that. Think about how seriously we take the Torah. You want the blessings, but you have to also do the covenants that the Torah requires you to do. It's not just a one-handed shake. It's not a handshake. Well, I'm not here to explain, prayer warrior, why we need it. It's a Torah commandment, and so we do it. Okay? We don't ask why, and I don't explain to people on Pal Talk why. So with that, Rabbi Kefa, I think that is probably about enough for me. That is my introduction to Torah. 30 minutes up. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rabbi Kefa.
Yeah, Chadasha Kohen. Just looking at these prices here for my lamb, it depends on if it's grass fed or not, but you're still looking at roughly around $400 to $500. Vive la France, Oliver. You have great elections going on over there and in France, and all the best as you guys move forward, because these are some serious times going on over there. There's a shift that's going on over there in what they call Europe, and it's going to really be great leadership is going to be needed all around. And I'm seeing the leadership changes, as you heard from my Kohen. Let me start this recording for those that may be listening in. As you heard from my Kohen with the UK as well, you see leadership changes occurring, right? You all noticing leadership is really stepping up. So I think it's very important that we do understand that. Very important. Very important. So, stay tuned and pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to what's going on in the world, because it is vital. It is important. Contrary to what a lot of people are being taught and being led to be taught, that we are to seclude ourselves from all these environments that are around us. Don't pick up that nonsense, Mishpahah. Do not follow that. You guys are in elementary school here, and I mean that. I don't mean that in a, like I'm trying to Debbie down you or anything. And if your name is Debbie, no offense, but I just want you to understand that you guys are really beginning to understand this way. This is what this forum is all about. For those who have, a desire to want to know how to really live the Torah of Moshe, the Torah of Moses. This is what this forum is about. So, this is why you won't get a lot of these in-depth questions answered, because you still need to be spoon-fed, or you still need to be connected to the breast. You're still on the breast milk, which is very important. So, to nurture you, to strengthen you, and then you move on to the meat, Baruch Hashem. So, that's important to understand. So, a lot of this leadership, follow it, and don't put yourself in a bubble. Don't seclude yourself, because you know better off than what they're doing and what this so-called social distancing and what are they doing? I tell you, it's happening big time to my family there in China, to where they're actually secluding you and restricting you from where you can go. And you all are in a variety of countries. I understand that. And this is why you need to open up that third eye so you can see what's really going down. Has isolation actually helped with this, what they call coronavirus or whatever variant that's out there? Give me your opinion on that. Has isolation actually solved the problem? Anybody want to answer that? Has putting you in your house for a week or two, has that actually solved the problem and everybody's living a great life? Here's another thing I have for you. Let me ask you this other question. Has all these vaccinations, listen, we got countries that are giving people 6 and 7 vaccines to fight this virus, and yet the people are still getting the virus. Is that helping? Now, what a lot of people don't understand, and I'm telling you, I'm down here in Little Mexico, and I'm getting the information from Mexico as well. is that they don't do social distancing. What they do is people go on and they carry on with their lives, and if you develop some symptoms, right, then you go see the doctor and they treat your symptoms, but they're not shutting down. How many of you are following what's going on, or you hearing what's going on over there in China today? Anybody following what the Chinese government is doing with their so-called zero policy? I would encourage you to look that up. Look up the, the CCP and their zero policy. What they are doing is they're punishing the good with the bad, because they're saying, imagine you live in an apartment building. You're the Jeffersons. You live in an apartment building, and you are totally fine. You're in perfect health. You're affirming, and you're doing your affirmations, and you're internalizing things, and you're self-healing yourself, because the body's miraculous like that. If you didn't know that, your body's just wonderful. Your body is just, we can't even begin to scratch the surface, the power that we have just within us, because that's where the Most High resides, within us, Blue Gazelle. But anyway, you're doing great, your family's doing great, but listen, your neighbor, right? Here's your neighbor. Your neighbor gets the coronavirus, he tests positive, or whatever other variant they want to call it that's out there. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to shut down the whole apartment building just because of your neighbor. They're going to shut it all down. You too, even though you may be, you test negative, and even though maybe you test positive, but you have no symptoms, they still going to shut you down. And they're going to treat you just as if you had the virus itself. And they're going to treat you just like as if you had the symptoms yourself. And you cannot leave. Now, come on now. Hakohi says, sounds like China's mad policies. Indeed, Hakohi. That's just what's going on. And there's a big uprising that's occurring behind that. So this, and they call it the zero policy because they say, well, we're going to get to a utopia to where nobody tests positive, and then you'll be able to assume your regular lives. But this is the biggest point that they're missing, because they're not thinking with the third eye. Is that, listen, we're not trying to live in an environment without the virus. What we need to be doing, well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to live in an environment without the virus. But as I told Akohin, this is the way it should be. They should be trying to live in the environment with the virus. Isn't that what we do with the flu? Don't we live with the flu? Annually they tell you on the news media and your doctor, hey, did you get your flu shot? How many of you heard that? Oh, my doctor's still rolling. Nakshan's doctor, my son's doctor, they're still rolling their eyes at me because I haven't gotten Nakshan the flu. Well, why won't you give him the flu vaccine? Because I feel like the flu vaccine won't help him. That's what I thought. So she's rolling her eyes at me every time I see her. Are you going to get the flu vaccine yet, sir? No, he doesn't need the flu vaccine. He has something within him that's more powerful than the flu vaccine. He won't get the flu. Well, I said, well, Doc, how come everybody's still getting the flu vaccine and they still getting the flu? What sense does that make? Why would I want to jeopardize my son's DNA? He has the DNA of El Shaddai. Why would I want to jeopardize his immune system by injecting him with some foreign stuff? You know what I mean? If he gets the flu from whatever, he'll deal with it, herd immunity. His body knows how to handle that. What people don't understand is, listen, even in our Parsha times that we're going to read about here, you get a disease, where you going? And this is why I titled this part of the lecture, call the doctor. You got to call the doctor because, and again, when you look at, Brother David said, they tell me the same thing at the VA hospital every time I go. Oh, indeed. It's because they're pushing this old agenda. You see, they haven't refreshed. Now, I'm not talking the whole masses, but I'm talking in general. The majority of medicine has not come up with the times. And this is why it's so important, if you're in this room or you're listening via YouTube or you're listening via Facebook, is that you stay connected to the doctor and not the traditional doctors that you used to, listening to. Because let me, I want to affirm something with you right now. Me, nor my son Nakshan, nor my wife have never and will never get the coronavirus. We will never get it. We will never get it. And you know why? It's because I followed the instructions of my doctor. Do you all understand that Hakohen is my doctor? How many of you will affirm that right now in this room, that the Kohen in the gate, Rabbi Simon Alter, is your doctor? You see, look, listen, our forefathers, when they got diseases, they went to the doctor. Who was the doctor? The Kohanim, because they specialized. They didn't just specialize in sacrifices, by the way. Shabbat shalom to you, Shane, y'all. They didn't specialize in just how to do sacrifices. They specialized in every facet, in every area, from real estate to prosperity and wealth, to health, to relationships and marriage. You're going to see that right out in the portion in a minute. You go to the doctor of all things. And these doctors, they evolve with time, and they embrace Mother Earth and the universes, and that's what's beautiful, because it's always on the move, and it's always. But if you go to your traditional doctor, and I'm not knocking if you want to be a doctor or whatever, if you are a doctor right now, I'm not knocking that, but I want to encourage you to open up your mind and open up your thought process and open up and embrace the New Age movement that's occurring. Medicine is moving on, but doctors are not moving on with the medicine. And this is why, when you go to your doctor and they're looking at you crazy, listen, how many of you have received the vaccination? Listen, I'm not saying don't receive it or not receive it, but I'm saying, listen, I'm a traveling man. I understand for me to go back to China, I'm going to have to be vaccinated. So I'm vaccinated. My wife is vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. We vaccinated. Listen, because a lot of these nations, they still run in fear. And they're going to run in fear. The fear won't change. So when they have that emotion of fear, then they begin to have feelings of, well, let's just put it this way. They begin to have feelings of death and depression and worry and doubt. These are all the feelings that they get behind that. And so what do they do to combat that? They try to treat it with these things of no effect. Okay, I'm going to isolate myself. I'm going to separate myself. I'm going to take these medicines that they say is going to help me. But when we look at the evidence on the ground and we look at the physical presentation of the manifestation, we're not seeing the numbers change. Hey, in China, my mother-in-law's already received 4 vaccination shots. For all these new variants, they get another shot. And my wife's sister lives in Taiwan. They testing them guys 6 times a day, Shane, y'all. My goodness. This is asinine. But that's what they're doing. Why? Pray tell, because they run in fear over this virus. And fear makes you do some kind of crazy, weird things, instead of having the emotion of love and feeling love. Do you know, I love the coronavirus. I love all these viruses. That's why I can live with them. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can live with these viruses, and I can go on and carry on my life as these viruses go on and do what they do. Because I love them. You know what I'm saying? I love these viruses. I don't fear them. I love them. You say, Rabbi Kefa, what the hell are you talking about? No, I do. I love these viruses. And this is why we have a great relationship. They don't bother me, and I won't bother them. I recognize them, they recognize me. And that's what it is. And the power and the eternal powers that are within me, the eternal powers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that are within me. So you can't touch me. But you can go on your way and do what you're supposed to do. Go to those people that are fearful. And there are a lot of people out here that are fearful. And this is the wheelhouse for these viruses. They love to attach themselves to people who are fearful. Because let me tell you, when you're in a fearful state, your immune system is decreased. Let's just see. Imagine your immune system like a force field. Like, I was watching this one Star Wars flick where they were being attacked on this planet, and these particular kind of creatures put up this force field. And so every time the bullets would come in, they wouldn't hit. They couldn't go through that force field. So they were in this bubble protected. And this is how I see it. I see it like if you have fear, then you begin to, that force field comes down, and every one of those bullets begin to penetrate, your force field, and you, for that matter. Have no fear, Mishpahah. We be Yeshua ben Yosef, the master, the great teacher that he was. What does he say? He says, fear not. You see people walking around with shirts. I see it here in Texas all the time. They wear the t-shirts that say, no fear. How many of you seen those t-shirts before? What a great saying, no fear. You don't have to fear it. Live with it. Live with it. Do you know how long our ancestors have been living with viruses, living with plagues? Look at the past. We just celebrated the Passover. We just celebrated the plagues and the smackdown that was placed on Egypt. Did those plagues affect the Hebrews? No, they did. The Hebrews had that force field I was telling you about. Because of the eternal powers that is within them. And who they decided to believe. They decided to believe and to stick with the compassion and the love and the kindness and to have love for all things. You see, love for Pharaoh, because Pharaoh was shown, and the Egyptians for that matter, because they were shown blessing them with all kind of goodies. Should be the same thing today. You see, we have to be able to, traditional medicines, as some of you are talking about. Rabbi Zachari says, my Gentile doctor told me that herbs don't work. So I fired him because he was telling me that he knows more than the Most High. You know what I'm saying? You got to fire him and move on to somebody who will. Insurance companies, health insurance companies are starting to realize that, herbal medicine does work, and it always has. But over time, they veered away from all of that stuff. They veered away from the forever ways that were effective for our ancestors. And it's just effective for us today. If they were effective for the Hebrews, then they're just effective for us today in 2022. Baruch Hashem. The Torah said, not vaxxed, been in all face-to-face with Corona in various situations and have never gotten it. Baruch Hashem. And Sataya is you will never get it if that's what you affirm and if that's what you believe. Because we learn to live in every kind of situation and circumstance. We're going to live. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is life. Now, if you want some more explanation with that, Shabbat Shalom, Nachshon. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. If you want some more explanation with that, then, you're going to have to, come into the family. Now, let's get back to the parsha because this is important stuff. And it's kind of piggybacking on to what we're talking about here. When we look at this parsha, I mean, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful parsha because look, you begin to read the first part of the parsha, and when you look at chapter 12 of Leviticus, reading from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible or the Hidden Hebraic Scrolls, you pick up here that birth is taking place. Baruch Hashem, birth is happening, childbirth. That's a wonderful thing, isn't it? The birth of children, girls, boys, birth of children is a good thing, right? Now, who's involved in the birthing process, number one? Let's look at this. Okay, you get the doctor, the midwives, but again, the midwives, and then who's there? Who's on the scene? Then the Torah tells us that the Kohen comes in on the scene, doesn't he? For birth, doesn't he? And then we deal with circumcision. And then who's on the scene for circumcision? Again, the Kohen is on the scene for circumcision, right? We're going to the circumcision. If it's a son, we're going to the circumcision, right, Mark John? Yeah, you there. Okay, my little lion. Okay, so then we deal with the circumcision, right? And then we keep it moving. Come, Papa. Did Papa hug? Hey. Yeah, you there. Papa hug. Yeah, you there. Yeah, okay. Shit, you there. Yay. So, and then we deal with the circumcision factor. Yeah. Okay, we talking to the people. Family. Say Shabbat Shalom, family. Get the family there, huh? Yeah, you get a family bump. Okay, so, and then we deal We're dealing with the circumcision that my son Nakshan had, and I had as well, Baruch Hashem. That's another facet and area where you have to have the Kohen there. Okay? Let's continue on. And then when you get disease, look, you've all there. And then when you get a disease, and we pick that up in what, chapter 13. And then we get a disease, Mishpah. And then who do we go see? Not just any kind of disease. This has been called a supernatural disease. Because not only does it affect you, the body, it can infect your house, it can infect your clothes. It's a serious disease, right? Who do we go to for that? We go to the doctors of it all. We go to the Kohan. Light, there you go. You're the light, not Sean. You're the light. Yay, Baruch Hashem. Okay. So then we go to the Kohanim for the disease. This particular disease is leprosy. So anybody in this room, can you tell me what happens when you do have leprosy? We're talking about these diseases and these plagues. We talk about corona, but let's just talk about leprosy for a minute and how our ancestors handled it. What happened if you had leprosy? Okay, you do. Anybody tell me, what happened if you had leprosy? What happened to you? Separate? Well, okay, can you explain a little more detail about the separation? What would actually happen? You were separated, then you're correct. Well, can you give me the description of what the Torah said will happen to you? Well, you were separated, but then what would happen to you? What's the words that the Torah uses? Okay, judgment. You were separated from those who did not have it. Right, Mishaw. But let's be more specific because I want you to visualize yourself during that time. If you're separated from those that you have, the Torah has a phrase that it uses. They went to the priest, yeah, they did. But what would happen? Actually, the priest went to them. But what would happen? Let me give it to you. They were placed outside of the camp. How many of you heard that say, okay, you have to be put outside the camp? Okay, if we the camp, like you all are saying, right? You had to be put what? Outside of the camp. Now, I want you all to understand that. Because, diseases and plagues come in many forms. You could be mentally diseased, right? In today's time, behavior issues, they got all kind of names for just bad behavior. OCD, all these kind of names they putting on them and labels, right? But you could be diseased in all kind of ways, correct? So I want you all to see this. This is what's happening now. When you diseased with, let's just say, rebellion or disobedience, in today's time, you're going to be put outside the camp. Yeah, you see the light? You're going to be put away. Do you not see that occurring right now? That's what's happening. See, either you in the camp of Israel or you outside of the camp. How many of you are seeing that? Because there's a disease, and we don't want that disease to fester within the camp. How many of you are camp members? Or you affirm to be a camp member? Put up a seat. You a camp member, Nakshan? Okay, Nakshan affirmed. He's a camp. Anybody else? You see the light? Yay. How many of you are camp members? You say, I'm in the camp. Well, in the camp, that's that place where nothing can affect us. Because we have that mind process, we have that belief, we have that thought process, right, Nakshan? And we cannot be infected by anything that we don't want to affect us. Camp members, but, so how do we do that? We have to isolate and we have to rid our environment of those who are susceptible and who are infected. Infection comes in many different ways, Mr. Hall. Many of you may say today, well, I don't see leprosy being disease today in 2022. I don't either, but I see many other diseases that we live with all around us. All around us, we live with all kind of other different diseases. Right now, Sean? You there? Okay, you there, up there. All around us. You see? So, right now, camp members, people are being put outside of the camp. Maybe not for the disease of leprosy, But they're being separated, like you said. That's a great word. They're being separated, placed outside of the camp for some other reasons. Serious reasons. Because they don't want to be a camp member. They say they're a camp member with their mouth, but their actions, okay, you want to see the cone? Yeah. So there you go. There's the cone. So we have to understand that going forward. Is that, this is what's happening, and it will continue to happen, so that the whole camp doesn't become what? Infected. You see? We have to guard ourselves, Mishpah. And this is why it's very important that you stick to the doctor. Call the doctor. You see, these people are infected, and they need to call the doctor. They want to call the doctor, but guess what? The doctor's not going to answer their call. Why? Because the doctor's already given out instruction, and they don't want to follow them. They don't want to follow the instruction of the doctor of us all within the camp. I give gratitude and thanks that we have an in-camp doctor, Baruch Hashem. Now, let me ask you this. Any of you follow the instruction of our in-camp doctor, you camp members? Have you picked up the coronavirus? Like Rabbi Zachariah said, I listened to my private doctor. He's telling me to do all this, that, and this, and the other, and the third, and to get all of these shots, and this, that, and the other. When I'm seeing that these same shots, people are still getting the virus. They're still getting diseases behind this. Think about this for a minute. But you've got instruction from our doctor, and you've been successful. And a lot of people go miss the camp doctor. They go missing. And they're going to, let's just face it, you got to be real. They're going to suffer behind not having a camp doctor. But that's just what it is. Until you can come into alignment and come back into the camp. See, the camp is where you're safe. The camp is protection. The camp is love. The camp is peace. The camp is joy. The camp is not confusion. There's no confusion in the camp. Everything is straightforward. You see the light now, Sean? You can share. You are the light, son. Yeah, you're big light. So we must understand that going forward. You see, again, I asked the question earlier to the early birds, is why do we continue to go yearly, to go through the Torah over and over and over again? Why? Can anybody want to answer that question? Give their own opinion. There's no wrong answer. But why do you do that? And I'm going to leave it as an open-ended question. Why do you do that? Why? So you can listen to the stories? I mean, why? Why? Ask yourself that question. And be honest with yourself. I mean, why? Why do you do that? Ask yourself. There's no wrong answer. And to Dafa responding if you want to respond. That's your opinion on why you need to do it. Let me give you a great illustration of it. It's because when you read something the first time, you can't take it all in. You can't, right? If you read it the first time, you go through it the first time and you read it, there is no way on the Most High's green earth that you can just you can absorb it all and really understand it so you can actually act upon it and utilize it in your life as a technology to assist you, you see? So you have to keep going through it to prove that what? That it's a part of you. It's a part of you. Just like you get up every morning, just like you go to bed every night, you see? It becomes a part of you. You guys are giving such great answers. For those of you who listen on Facebook or listening on YouTube, that's enlightenment, they're learning more, better understanding. So living it becomes automatic. Practice makes perfect to help us remember. Baruch Hashem. But again, we read it so that we can get an understanding and then have questions so that we can go to the doctor of the Torah, who is who? The priesthood, and we can get understanding, okay, how can I apply this? What am I supposed to do? What technology am I supposed to do to make this Torah of Moshe work in my life right now? To make it functional, to make it livable, because I want to live a life. I just don't want to go through here just stumbling and fumbling. on my deathbed still with a lot of questions. No, I have all the answers, and I'm ready, and I'm prepared. The Torah teaches us to be a participator. How do we want to participate in the university? Yeah, there's the light now, Sean. How do we want to participate? You see, that's what we have to ask ourselves. Okay, in a minute. Okay, that's what we have to ask ourselves, Mishpah. How do we want to participate? You ain't gonna see Mama? You got to see Mama? You want with Mama? Okay, you want with Mama? So we need to understand that going forward. This is what we need to understand. In my 2 minutes left for those of you in this forum, we getting ready. Camp members, just prepare yourselves because we're taking this to another level now. We're going into some heavy stuff. Some heavy stuff that's just gonna blow your. It's gonna really just open your minds. There you go. Open your minds and open your hearts to the true understanding of who we are and how powerful we are as a people. You camp members, Baruch Hashem. And for those who want to be outside the camp, this is because you want to be out. Nobody forcing you outside of the camp. You see what I'm saying? It's your disease that's moving you out. Now, just like you noted with the leprosy. I mean, did the leprosy keep them family members outside of the camp forever? No. When they were diagnosed by the doctor that they were cleared, then guess what? They could come back into the camp. So where do you get clearance from? You get clearance from the doctor as well. You see? To come back into the camp. Now, this form that we have right here. This form that we have right here is for camp recruitment. We recruit right here. This is where you come in and you can be a recruit to come into the camp. But right now you're outside of the camp. And this is why Hakohen is going to tell you sometimes can't answer that question. Why? Because you're outside the camp. You're not in the camp. This is camp membership has privileges. A lot of them, by the way. And so you have to ask yourself, what do you want to do? Where you want to go? I mean, is this for you? Is it for you? This is what you have to ask yourself. And then your actions will bear it out. But remember, believe me, you're going to need to call a doctor at some time or another in your life. Which doctor are you going to call? That civilian doctor that's going to just shoot you up with some more vaccinations that's harming your body and affecting your immune system and your DNA? I'm not getting into conspiracy, but that's just what it does. It lessens and it weakens your immune system. These foreign, who knows what they put in these things? And if you have to get the shot, you get the shot, and it still won't affect you. Because I got the shot, and it's not going to affect me. Why? Because I need to go back to China. I want to travel. And I'm not going to let a puny shot affect me because I'm not afraid of no shot. You know how long they've been trying to kill the Hebrews? Enough said. Just think about that for a minute. You know how long they've been trying to destroy the Hebrews? It's not going to work. So get off the conspiracy theories. It's just not going to work. Remember, who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Civilian doctors or the doctors of us? Or the doctors of it all? You got a doctorate in the economy, a doctorate in finance, a doctorate in health, a doctorate in wealth and prosperity, a doctorate in relationship. Man, one-stop shop. Camp members, that's what we have at our disposal, so give thanks and give gratitude. So on that note, that's it for me. I'm wrapping it up on this end, and I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. Have a wonderful Shabbat, a great 6 days of labor ahead, and remember, what's really important to you will be really important to you. That's what it is. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. What's really important to you is going to be what's really important to you. Have a great 6 days of labor ahead, and I leave you in the mighty hands of the Most High, and I leave you in the hands of your own decision-making process. I leave you in the hands of yourself. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom to all of you. Over to you, Hakohen. I'm probably going to wrap this up here. But Shabbat Shalom and Shalom, Shalom. Hey, you guys have any questions on the way out? We may be able to answer them, we may not. But again, if you want to line up and you want to get into camp, you got camp questions on how to get into the camp, please get in contact with us, all right?
Yeah, Todah, Rabbi Kefa. I want to give a little testimony I won't tell you exactly what I used, but this is a very important testimony that bears witness of the power that is given to us as a people of the Holy Scrolls, the Holy Books. There is a woman in the East that I haven't met, but it was brought to my news that she had picked up stroke, and she was a member of my, I guess she's related to my wife's side somewhere. And so I said to my wife, okay, I don't know the woman, but I will give something for her healing. And she couldn't move her arm. I believe one of her arms wasn't able to move, left arm, and left side of right side. I think it's the one side of the face that goes with the stroke. One side of your arm, body, and one side of your face becomes paralyzed. So she had those symptoms, and so I sent her let's just call it a supplement. I won't call it a medicine. I sent her a medicine or supplement, and I said to her, take this and then report back. So she took it for a few days, and she started to get movement in her arm. Think about that. Think what I just did. I caused somebody who's miles away from me to start receive healing. She's never met me. She's only heard about me through some relative. And so she was so ecstatic that she started to get movement in her arm. Now she could start lifting her arm. It started to have movement and become stronger every day. And she said to me, who is this man? She asked this question to the relative, who is this man that sent this particular supplement? And the woman said, well, he's, so-and-so's husband, and he's a godly man. He knows many things about God, and he is a private man. He doesn't go around meeting everybody. And she said, well, how much does he charge? And she said, he doesn't charge no money for prescribing you this. He said he brought this from America. He brought it, he made it, and he gave it to you free of charge. He didn't charge you any money for it, and he doesn't charge. So anybody that comes to him, he won't charge him money for a medicine or a supplement. And she said, wow, so what can I give him as a gift? And she said, well, you're in a village, you got fields to your name, you grow vegetables, you grow wheat, you grow rice. If he ever comes your way, you just give him some rice, some vegetables, he'll be more than happy. And she said, she was sending blessings, she was praising, she was saying, thank God for this man, may God bless him, may God keep him safe. All these things she's saying every day. But she is not the only patient that I had. I had another patient from a Muslim background. By the way, this was from a Christian background. There was a Muslim background patient, next door neighbor. My next door neighbor was suffering from, similar, a stroke. And I saw him every day when I was passing through. And one day I called out to him and I said, what is the problem that you are having? And I just gave him a shalom and said, peace be upon you. But I said, I want to meet you. And then I sent a message to his wife, and through my wife, of course. And I said, I want to see this man. He's our next door neighbor. She said, yeah, he's got a problem. I said, sure, I want to see him. He's our next door neighbor. I got to help him. So we said, let's go. We went to the next door neighbor. They invited us in. They gave us, very courteous, gave us juice. And we went. He was upstairs. The wife, took me upstairs. It's a beautiful house. Took me upstairs to the man. He was in a bed at the time. And I said, how are you? I said, how are you? How are you doing? And what happened? And he started to tell me. He couldn't speak properly because he was having, paraplegia of his face and speech. So he was having difficulty speaking. So the wife was explaining this has happened and so on. And I said, what are you taking now? And they said, we're taking all this lump of medicines, and it's not really helping so much. The doctor prescribed. I said, okay, forget all about that. I said, forget all that nonsense. I said, let me give you something that I made myself and I brought from America, and I want you to give this man every day this, and I want you to put him on a certain diet. I gave him the diet, what diet he needs to be on, and I said, I want you to report back after 30 days. Okay, this man's going to be healed. And this man's already looking at me, smiling and chirping, and he's like, thank you for coming, thank you. I said, it's okay, your neighbor, and I decided to come and seek you and try to help you, to heal you. I said, you're going to be healed. I look at him, I said, you're going to be healed. And the man starts to profusely cry. He's crying. He's an elderly man, maybe maybe he's about 65, 66, 67 years old. He's crying. I said, don't cry. I said, don't cry, you're going to be healed. Don't worry about it. You're going to be walking soon, and your arm's going to be healed. You're going to be talking as well. And so I leave him, and I come back, and then I go. I kind of leave the city, and I go away somewhere else. For maybe I was out of the city for a couple of weeks. And then I'm in another place 3 weeks later. I'm not at home. And I asked the wife, I said, how is that neighbor of ours? And she goes, that neighbor? She said, the neighbor is healed. She said, neighbor stands on the balcony of his house, and he is giving me prayers. He's telling me blessings. He's sending blessings to you. And he is giving so many blessings to both of us. He's giving us praise, and he's saying, God may keep you safe. God may bless you. Your husband is such a great man. Look what he's done for me. He's giving like that big praises. So I come back the 4th week, and I see him one day downstairs boarding a taxi, and he sees me and he starts to praise me. And I said, how are you doing? He says, I'm great, I'm wonderful. He says, thank you, you're a great man. Thank you. May God bless you. May God keep you safe. Wherever you go, may God be with you. This man has given me so much, blessings, and I was like so happy for him. I'm so happy for him that he's completely healed. That is the power of the coin in the gate, by the way. And those of you don't have it, you don't have it. It's as simple as that. Those of you have it, they have it. So these things that we keep for our people who are in covenant, we don't just dish them out anymore. But I do from time to time. I may, see a person who's sick, who's not part of our people, but may still be part of us in some way, form, or shape. So I do go and help those kind of people. They don't have to be, in our camp, but they're outside the camp. But they are people that, maybe God has directed me to them, and I help them. The same way, there are people that are aligned with me, that if I said to them, I'm sending you a person to your house, I want you to keep this person, I want you to feed that person, and that's your job for now. And the people will never say no. Recently, there was a woman that was freed. The woman came from Afghanistan. She almost died in Afghanistan, but she came from Afghanistan, now safely in Pakistan, by the way, and she's safely in the house. So the people are sent her in the north. I said to the north people, by the way, this woman's from the tribe of Benjamin. Beautiful, beautiful woman. And Rabbi Kefa, remember the woman I showed you from the tribe of Benjamin? Beautiful, pretty woman. So this woman's also from the tribe of Benjamin. Very pretty, very beautiful. I sent her she almost died in Afghanistan. Now she's in Pakistan, confirmed by my, associates over there. And I said to my associates, I said, you keep this woman. And that family is not a very rich family, very, kind of average family. And I said to her that I will, assist you with ration food. From time to time I will assist you, but please keep this woman. She has nobody in this country to help her but you now, because you're gonna be the guardians for her whilst I'm out of the country. So until further ado, you keep her. She is an important person that helped me in Afghanistan, free other girls, and I can't leave her in her desperate times. I'm not going to leave her on the street and be a beggar. So, and the family, what they did? These are the Pathans. These are families that belong to the tribes. They call themselves Pathans. And this family is so, they're so hospitable. They may not have food, to buy for themselves, but they're so hospitable that they will borrow some money. They will go buy the best food they can for their guest. The family said, this is our guest, and this was sent by, this particular person. We got to look out for this person. So you know what they went and bought? They don't eat it themselves. They went and bought lamb meat. Lamb meat is very expensive over there. Normally people prefer beef or chicken. Lamb meat is 3 to 4 times as expensive. They go and they buy lamb meat. I don't know where they get the money from. They buy lamb meat. They add some other stuff to it, and they put it on her table. And the woman reports back to me that these people are so humble. They are not rich. They are on the lower rungs of the scale, And she said they're so humble and they were so kind to me that they put lamb in front of me, and then they put other stuff, and then they gave me a dress to wear, a new dress. And the woman said that, our festival is coming, but rather than I wear it, I will give it to you because you're our guest, and I can wear my old clothes. This is the level of hospitality that people go over there, these Pathans, because they are tribal people. They are our people. And so these are the kind of people that, I spend my time and my life on, helping and being their guide and being their comforter and being their doctor and being everything for them. So people wonder, why do I go there? Why do I go in the north to meet people like that? Is because these people are so kind. In return, they're so helpful that I could just send a text message and say, do this, and they will do it for me. So it's important to have people like that in your life. And I'm pretty sure that there are some people like that over here as well. But on the other hand, there are people over here that can't give you time of the day. In Europe, when I used to live in Europe, in England, in London, or close to London, people in London couldn't even bother to say hi to you. In America, people at least will say, hello sir, how are you doing? How's your day? When you're going on the street or when you're going to your backyard, people will actually communicate with you in America, which is a great thing. But in England, people are, with their grumpy faces, sitting in trains, holding their piece of paper in front of their face. They will never even say hi to you. You can travel on the same train day after day, week after week, year after year, and I did, and nobody ever said hello to me even once over there. That's the kind of mentality the British have, stiff upper lip, don't want to talk to you, don't bother me, don't talk to me, don't say hi. This is the kind of mentality that people have in England. But, of course, the people in the north of England are different. They are more kindly spoken and different in that sense. But anyway, this is where we are. So, Torah has its privileges. Torah is not a burden. Torah is a privilege. For those who keep it, it's a privilege. So with that, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom. Have a great, wonderful week ahead. And until next time, Shalom, Shalom.